we go. Ezra.
Yeah,
Tell us about Ezra, Alan.
Ezra is a small little drama starring Bobby Cannavale, who's the father of a young son with autism. And the way we find ourselves in this story is that Bobby is about to be divorced from his wife, played by Rose Byrne. He's living with his father, played by Robert De Niro. On this day, his son Ezra caused quite a stir at school. He's been doing really good. They've been trying to integrate him in normal school, in regular school. But today he was acting out because Dad had him binge watch Breaking Bad. And Ezra led the kids to doing something dangerous. Not a big deal, but it more lends itself to the reason why they need to move Ezra out of a normal school and then put him in a special school. But the father is against it. He wants his son to be as normal as possible. And that's essentially what this movie's about, is everyone around him is telling him that he's not the son you think he is, or that he's not going to become the person he thinks he is. And they want him to go on to start prescription medications. They want him to go to special school. But he decides not to the point where he essentially kidnaps Ezra and goes on a road trip across the country to make an appearance on the Jimmy Kimmel Show because he's a stand-up comic. There are good things about this movie in terms of the story itself, but there are things in this movie that will probably piss off a lot of our audience. And I think I just mentioned it by saying the words Jimmy Kimmel. What do you think about it, Ezra?
Well, it's I like the father-son relationship. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Ezra and his father, or the father and
Ezra and his father. Okay. And there's another, like, De Niro's in this movie. Sadly, De Niro in the news recently, kind of embarrassing himself. But I love the father-son relationship there. Him struggling with his kid's autism and being just the best father he's capable of. He's divorced and has to deal with his ex-wife. But so I really thought it was sweet. That was the heart of the film. Mm-hmm. And I know people who have kids with autism. They have, children with autism. And I've seen that more and more. So I think we might want to be curious about why so many kids have to struggle with this. But I thought the heart of the film worked. The story elements didn't really work. Like, it's a road movie. It's an indie road movie, which is like a trope. We've seen it a million times. But they abandoned their car in the middle of the woods. They abandoned their car. I didn't
really
believe
nice
that.
Car too.
I didn't believe the Jimmy Kimmel stuff. That was sort of played very fake, which was weird. Whoopi Goldberg plays his agent, manager, and that was kind of weird. Like the story part, and then he brings his son to his stand-up gigs at night to these bars and whatnot, bars and comedy venues. I didn't buy any of that. I bought the relationship. The story was just weak. And when I saw it, I saw the guy who directed it was in the movie. He was the villain in Ghost.
Oh yeah, Tony Goldwyn.
Tony Goldwyn, who I like. He directed it, and they did a little intro where the writer has been writing it for 10 years, and Tony Goldwyn came along. So I think if you have someone in your life, a child who has autism, this movie is going to affect you in the feels. It will. 100%. You can the story stuff that doesn't work, you can dismiss it. It's fine. The story stuff that did not work really did not work. Any other movie would have been no. But because I don't know that I know of other movies that have dealt with this specific issue so head on, and for that, it gets my praise. So I'm going to give it a mild recommend, like a 6. But, and I just think that so many are dealing with this problem more and more that I'm glad someone made a film about this. The story stuff, dismiss it. the heart of the film, that's the thing that works. Alan, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, one is autism. The reason they call it a spectrum is because there are various levels of it, and I like the point of the spectrum that Ezra is in. You know, it. I do have a cousin who is autistic, and he is communicative, but he's not quite there where Ezra is here. And so there's a level of, I'll say, empathy, because I really don't know. I've not spent necessarily an extensive amount of time with my cousin that way. But I agree with you. I think the heart of the film is the reason to see it. I think there are barriers to get over in watching it. First of all, Robert De Niro's not doing himself any good.
Yeah.
Neither is Whoopi Goldberg, and neither is Jimmy Kimmel. And they
Yeah.
Robert De Niro and Whoopi Goldberg play big roles. Jimmy Kimmel, it's like, oh, I got to get to Kimmel. I got to get to Kimmel. I got to do that. I'm like, why? Why are you traveling to LA? Why don't you just stay in New York and do Fallon instead? I don't know why Jimmy Kimmel has that kind of cachet. And those are the things that distract you from the story. But fortunately, this relationship between the father and son overwhelms the entire movie.
Yeah.
That those minor things are very small, and that I've seen a lot of these. I'll call them issues-based movies where, like I saw a movie with Liam Neeson where his wife had breast cancer, and the movie is just basically the stages of breast cancer and what that does to a relationship. And it just, here's chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. What I liked about this one is it felt like a drama, and I really like that. And the way that that Bobby Cannavale's character interacts with his son Ezra, it speaks to a lot of what parents go through when they're raising autistic children, and I think that awareness just brings more empathy from people who are not able to, who are not that close to the issue, and you just understand the frustration that goes in, but also the love that goes into it. The fact that children, no matter what, are not throwaways, and in this movie, Ezra is definitely not a throwaway child. And to see the family struggle, yet family support is the big message of this movie.
And what I like about the dad is he really, really supports his son. They want to put him on drugs, basically to just medicate him so he's easier to deal with.
Cool him off,
cool him off in the classroom. And his dad's like, no, I'm going to stand up for my son. I am not going to give him, look, my son, when he was in elementary school, they wanted to give him Ritalin because he was a normal boy. So what do I do? I got him a skateboard, take him out to the park to work off all that energy. But I did not put my son on Ritalin, and they wanted to medicate his son, and he stood up for him. So on that, I recommend the movie. I have, you know what? I have adult friends who are mildly autistic on the spectrum. In some ways, if you can, it's almost like a superpower, but it's a way, it's like a human mentat. That's a Dune reference. But I did, the heart of the film works. I did thought like De Niro and Whoopi Goldberg like that, and Jimmy Kimmel. I cringe.
Oh.
There is a post-credit scene that's kind of funny, but yeah. Anyways, I give it a mild recommend. Alan, do you recommend it?
I do. I do, with all those caveats. I mean, I think the way I approach movies is it broadens my world, and this movie broadens my world.